Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Abby Haggard, and my hair looks like I went through a thing. Give me one quick second while I click this official welcome. And I'm going to pick up my warm beverage in the morning. And I'm good to go. These are all such very small first world situations, aren't they? So, today I want to talk about something that affects us all. And but it seems like a small thing when it happens, except later on when you think about it, there's layers. Everything is either a chrysanthemum or an onion, one of the two. And so, but before I dive in, I just want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for deciding to join me. This is Tuesday or Shoes Day, depending on your on your point of view. Clearly, when we look at my wall, I'm leaning more to the Shoes Day kind of day. And the reason I do these videos for the newbies is that I'm getting myself back into front of camera working. That I sort of, well, good morning, Chris. Good morning. Good morning. I'm explaining to the peoples what this is for. So what I'm saying is that I'm getting myself back in front of the camera. I was in front of the camera for quite a long time, or at least at the very least in recording studios that put my voices in front of the camera. How about that? And I decided this is going back about 5 years now, but we had a couple of glitches. We had the pandemic, which caused us to rethink how we do what we do and why we do it, when and where. And then after that, it surprised, I think, pretty much all of us how slow we were to kind of get back into gear, to reset, to recommence what we had been doing before, because we forgot that the more things change, we change. And so we were actually operating with brand new blank pieces of paper on how we want to do things. And we almost missed the message. However, I've been here to say, no, we haven't missed the message. I will fill us in. And part of this process is called Pivotry. A pivot, as everybody knows, is a hard, sharp turn, an immediate break. Wait a minute, what? Pivotry is what goes on in the brain in order to make that possible. The brain has to say, habit, 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 maybe not. And that's a very, very important shift that we make, because habit, habit, habit is how we've survived for millennia. Wait a minute is recalculating and recalibrating in real time. And if we get out of the habit, it's very, very difficult for us to have faith in it, to believe in it. Pivotry in motion, which is the name of my little umbrella concept, is that we're doing this not sitting back and evaluating and thinking. We're doing it while we're tap dancing, while we're continuing to carry on, which is remarkable when you even begin to think about it. So the conversation today specifically, and even further back, for those of you who may have stumbled on this and no idea who this redhead might be, there was a moment in time on television worldwide when a children's television series called You Can't Do That on Television was very popular. And I played the mom. That's mom standing over there behind me. Same time, same place, Ottawa, Canada, we created and produced the Care Bears and Teddy Ruxpin. And For Better or For Worse. All of that, along with a bunch of Marvel comic stuff in Ottawa. And I was part of Care Bears, Teddy Ruxpin, and For Better or For Worse. So you almost couldn't turn around without bumping into me. So I bring all of that experience, plus raised as a military kid, to have these conversations about what exactly did we think we were doing? And is it a good idea? And should we carry on, or should we rethink? So here we go. The conversation today, episode 335, is this. You know, when you find money, you're taking your clothes to the dry cleaners, you've got a jacket or you've got something, and you just, you put your hand in the pocket and you feel, wait a minute, that's paper. What is that? You pull it out and it's money, folding money. My money folds. It doesn't jingle. And you look at it and you say, wow. Now it could be $2, it could be $1, it could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 2 20s. I've never forgotten that I put a $50 bill in my pocket, but some of you among us may do that on a regular basis. The amount of the money isn't the point. The conversation today is, when that has happened, what do you do about it? How do you use that money without thinking? I mean, I know you stand for a second going, and the little voice says, huzzah, because we didn't even know it was our birthday. What are we going to do with the money? Now, as you think about that, I'm going to take a quick sip again, because I have a story to tell you before I weigh in, okay? This morning I added some cinnamon. Often throughout the course of my entertainment career, I was approached by people who were involved in multi-level marketing, because they would take one look at how busy I was and how excited and fun my crowds were. And they, separately or together, said to themselves, if we can get her involved, we're on easy street. Because what they saw me doing was connecting in real time with people at a very important and fundamental and deep centered personal level. Total strangers. I did it yesterday 3 times. Yesterday, I went to the advance polls to vote, and I crammed into a very small elevator with a lot of people, and I chippered away. And by the time we all got out of the elevator, everybody was smiling. Went through the process, thanked everybody because it was kind of an icky day, and they're doing an important job. And then I went to a very important gathering of people I'm very fond of, who lost someone recently. And this afternoon, I'm going to the follow-up event. But every single person I spoke to, I'm looking for the connection. I'm not looking for the connection in this moment. I'm looking for our connection, our human connection. I'm looking for something that immediately brings us back to our unforgettables, our unforgettable moment that we previously shared, because given that it's unforgettable, we bring it with us. So on one of the occasions when somebody said, I'd like you to introduce you to this opportunity, and I said, it's not multi-level marketing. They said, no, it's so much more. Anyway, it was. So I went to this event, and I said, I'll just stand at the back of the room. And she said, oh, but I wanted to introduce you to people. And I said, first of all, I want to stand at the back of the room, because if you're going to work in a room, you're going to be in the front of the room. You're going to have the lights on. You're going to have people facing you. What the wise child does is goes and surveys the room from a quiet spot where nobody's paying attention, so that you can see where the energy is flowing from and to, so that you can climb in and do what you need to do and wish to do with the greatest effect. So I'm standing at the back, and a very elegant woman moved up alongside me, and we both stood there for a while. And I turned to her and I said, hello. And she said, hello, my name is whatever it was. And she said, it's my understanding that so-and-so invited you. Yes. And she said, you have no idea why this kind of group means so much to those people up there. And I said, I looked at her and I said, probably you're right. And so what this was, without giving away names of any kind, this was a company that brings people together to do direct sales of cosmetics. And this was early on in the event, and they began the event by introducing the speaker, and then inviting people to come up onto the stage in the lights to receive a recognition for what had happened since the last meeting. And she said, you don't know why these people are going to all this trouble to come and walk on that stage and get a ribbon. And I said, well, I certainly understand recognition. I mean, I'm in the entertainment business, so I understand how delicious and lovely it is to have an audience applaud you. And she said, oh, yes, of course. But she said, you don't know the deep drive within it. And I said, um, explain to me. And she said, more than 80% of the people who join this organization, in particular, not specifically this named organization, but this kind of organization, have never really leaned into their own identity. They grew up at a time or in a social structure where their recognition, their validation was who they belonged to, what their group represented, what the family name, what the legacy reputation stood for. And then when they reached a certain age, they were encouraged to find a life partner and take the steps to fuse their lives together. And as quickly as possible, begin to have a family. And at no time in those processes were most of those people given or hungry for, or even aware that they might need or want self recognition, personal recognition, personal space to find out who they are, all by themselves, stand alone, who they are. And I said, that's a very interesting and profound observation. Thank you. You're right. I would not have thought about that. Not for the reason you think, though. I'm a military child, so a lot of it applies. But in the military, there's a very broad divide where people want to stay as strongly as people want to move on. And the strength and the momentum of this long legacy, these long-held beliefs, really is a catalyst in so many ways. There's a sharp poke on the bridge of the nose to make you realize how important it is to stand for yourself. Hang on just a second, Charles. Good morning. I hope everything's okay. Message me later, and I hope you're okay. Just can you quickly say you're okay, just to let me know? Thank you. Um, so back to this conversation, and by the way, Charles has become a personal friend. Charles and his wife Kat have become personal friends. We began our relationship because of their fascination with and enjoyment of the work I do on television or did on television. And then we became friends on social media. And then last year, they decided that their vacation was going to be to come to Ottawa, Canada, and spend time with me in person. And we became real friends, face to face, one on one, because they made the decision every step of the way in that process that it mattered to re identify with me, with our friendship on an entirely different level. So this is in keeping with what I'm talking about. So this woman explained to me that in many, many families, in many cultures, in many countries, in many suburban, urban, downtown, rural, in many, many situations, we grow up within a way of thinking. And for one reason or another, we stay fixed and committed inside that without giving it second thought. So the conversation today, good morning, Freddie. The conversation today is about a moment when we get to rethink how we just automatically behave, what our autopilot is. Before I continue on, I just want to finish the conversation that I had with this person. So I said, my take on life is entirely different. And she said, yes. And it's very probable that this is not the group for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that this kind of business is not for you, but this group is so foreign to you. It would take such a long time for you to really be able to walk in their shoes. However, I think it's really important that you see what this means to them, because we can relate. If it's not the thing, the why behind it is universal. And that is to feel that we are seen, heard, and valued for who we are. And then who we are as part of the many tribes we join. And that was a long time ago, but it's never really left me. So today, I was getting stuff ready to take to this the charity thrift store, and I put my hand in a pocket, and out came $10. And that was, the other day, and I said, all right, there's the conversation. What are you going to do with it? There's so many things we can do with something like that. And there's no debate judgment on the value of the decision you make. What's interesting is if in the process of making the decision, we consciously change our first thought. And if we do, why? So here's how I want to run with this. I found $10. I had a couple of things I could do. I could just happily put it in my current jacket pocket and try not to forget it this time. I could take it with me to the grocery store, and when I bought my groceries, ask them to change it into 2 fives. And when I left the grocery store, I would be able to give 2 fives to people who are homeless. Or I could just buy a lottery ticket. I could do any of those things. I don't have children. I'm not needing to buy school supplies. So this was $10 found money that wasn't already earmarked for something, because it came as a surprise. If I was short to pay the bills, obviously my prior commitments would dictate that I add that $10 to the bills I'm going to pay, the food I'm going to buy. But as it happened, I didn't have to do that on that day. And I got to tell you that as a person in show business most of her life, there have been times when $10 was a very big deal. So in thinking about those choices, 4 years ago, living in another place, living in a very suburban area, not being in the downtown, thriving, interacting hub of community, the likelihood that I would run into people who were homeless was less common, because usually they are in a more urban downtown area. So my first thought wouldn't have been change the money so that I could give it. I might have put it in a collection that I saw. More likely, if it was somebody's birthday, I might have bought them a cute little treat. Even if it wasn't their birthday, just to say, look what we found. I found the cash, you got the treat. But I have moved. I am now downtown. I am now actively seeing people who are struggling. So I had decided that when I went to the store, that would be my choice. I would take the money and add it to the money I keep handy, so that when I see somebody, I know it's not going to change their lives. What it is going to do is it's going to give them the opportunity to make a self-care decision that they weren't able to make before I added my $5 to their cash, to their money. So the question isn't, woohoo, where are we going shopping? Shall I buy myself a drink? Shall I get myself something cute? The question is, am I going to change my automatic response? Am I paying attention to what's going on around me? Is there something different I could do that would be as big a feel good? And part of this conversation is caught up in this origin story I talk about pretty much all the time. An origin story is the story we believe we were told. And we tossed out the comment all the time without realizing it. Well, nobody in our family has ever, my mother, father, brother, sister, cousins, aunts, uncles, they all played sports. And I, really, sports and I just don't see eye to eye. What I really love to do is cook. What I really love to do is garden. What I really love to do is pretty much anything that is on the opposite side of the page from sports. So I'm basically the changeling. I'm basically the outlier. And then the conversation goes how that connected us differently with our family and with our extended families, and what it was like. Was I supported? Were we supported in being the rogue? Were we celebrated for our achievements that didn't look like theirs? When we grow up and we decide to join or create a family, and then we take on other new people, the things they deem important may not be ours. How do we bridge our differences? How do we change our minds and our opinions in order to be able to accept something different? And not only accept it, but welcome it and celebrate it. When I met my very dear friend who passed recently, not a single person in any generations of his immediate family had been involved in show business. Eventually, I met someone who was an outlier. No one had been a celebrity, and they didn't know what to do with me. And some of them behaved as though I probably wasn't very good at anything. And show business was just a convenient thing to say. And I had choices. Did I defend myself? Did I prove them wrong? Or did I just live my life? So what I did was I lived my life. Unless and until they came up and said, and what are you going to do about it? And then I would tell them what I was going to do about it. And that's when they would discover that I actually am descended from Vikings. So the conversation that I want us to have today about this question, if you found treasure, if you found value that you had forgotten you had, not money, something else, a talent, an ability, a skill that you had not rated as powerful, as important, as essential, and suddenly you saw that in fact it mattered. How would you use it? What would you do with it? Would you say, oh, well, I kind of dabble at it? Would you dismiss it? Or would you say, I know, right? I just realized I can do this. Or would you say, I'm going to quote somebody here, you don't know what it means to me to hear that I have value, especially from people like you. And my answer to that is pretty much always, well, if outsiders had to tell you that it's time that you and your inner child saw it too and recognized how precious it is, because all the skills mean a lot. Nothing is unimportant. No matter how frivolous it might seem, Me making people laugh on an elevator on the way to do something very important. It's cold outside, it's damp, it would have been easy to stay home, but they came. And for me to make everybody giggle and laugh, what it did was it validated why they came. It was my way of giving an attaboy. We're in this. Woohoo! Because we need that from each other. In direct proportion to how much external we need to feel that we're okay. It's more than we're gonna be okay. We are okay. We're in this together. We got this. Is that scary? Yes. Is that annoying? Yes. Do we need to invest the time to do something about it? Well, if it's upsetting you, yes. It's the part of you, the inner part of you, that's saying, you know what, I don't like that. So the conversation I want to finish with, and it's a short one today because there's stuff to do, is this. Basic, elemental, primitive survival is fight, flee, freeze, hide, comply. That is how the subconscious brain, the cave brain, deals with every threat. If we're not strong enough to fight, and the likelihood is that we win, then every next option the subconscious, emotional, fear-based brain gives us is get out of Dodge fast, run like the wind, make no sudden moves in the process. However, we have evolved from that. While that brain handles all of the basic stuff that we do and keeps us glowing and flowing, the other parts of our brain have evolved from that. And we understand the concept of strategic. We understand the concept of timing. We understand the concept of the value of door number 3 and plan C. We understand the value of taking 5 steps back and saying, there's got to be a way out of here. There's got to be an answer. As I'm often fond of saying, if I wake up to my neck in it, there's got to be a pony in here with me. And as soon as I find it, I'm riding on out. We can deal with a lot. We can assess, evaluate, and choose to opt in, opt out, rethink, reset, recalibrate, and restart. We can emulate the Vikings, who were faced with a dangerous scenario. And their option was stay and die, flee and lose everything. And they said, well, clearly option 1 is the most unattractive. Option 2 has elements we like. Now let's look for option 3, where we can change the purpose, the process, our position, and our passion. Let's find the way that serves as many of us as possible. We are all in this together, my lovelies. And it's easy to get caught up in momentum. It is easy to be startled. It is easy to feel hard done by. It is easy to say, I found $10 and it's mine by God and I don't care who knows it. It is easy to say, I don't deserve to have this $10. I mean, I'm really just part of so I'm not going to keep it. Or we can say, I'm going to figure out a use for this $10 that makes the most people feel that they're heard, seen, valued, cherished, and engaged. Because while it's maybe true of shoes, life is not a spectator sport. I'm referring to spectators. It's a kind of shoe. Some of you won't know. It's okay. Life is not a spectator sport. And if we have been in the habit of going along to get along, the easiest way to change a habit is to take on a new habit. Because nature doesn't like a vacuum. So in the days coming, in the weeks coming, all the rhetoric, you can choose to listen, you can choose to watch, you can choose to lean in and get involved. But I want to explain something really important to you. There is a way to tell if it is unhealthy. And I'm going to share it with you. This is the hack I promised. Now, people have all kinds of conversations about the way to breathe that calms you down. And it's complicated and it sounds crazy. And I've figured out a way to make it very, very simple. So we need oxygen. We need air. Why? Well, because oxygen builds up all the good soldiers, the strong soldiers, the healthy soldiers in the blood. The blood heals stuff and we keep living. Basically, simple. That's what the oxygen is for. In with the good air, out with the used air. In with the fresh air, out with the used air. And it's the in and out process that nobody really explained to us how it works and why there is an actual sneaky benefit. So I am going to explain. Everybody's heard of the rib cage, right? It's like this. It's like this. And it is bones attached to the back, to our spine. And the reason we have it, presumably, is because very valuable organs are in there. So it's like a protective cage. That's what it's called, a rib cage. And inside it are our lungs and our heart and a bunch of other stuff. And then all kinds of things sending all kinds of messages everywhere. In order to get the air from out here in here, we can do one of two things. And most people choose the most difficult one because why not? Most people try really hard to get the air in. Come on in. And if we're running and if we're scared and we're busy, we need more air. The thing is, we're chasing it, we're grabbing it, we're pulling for it. We need it, we need it, we need it. The air is saying, oh, I don't know. Show me how much you love me. And playing hard to get. The other way to get air is to use a very cool muscle that sits right below the rib cage. And it acts like old fireplaces, they had bellows, right? It acts like a vacuum, a reverse vacuum. Because what it does from the bottom is if you allow it to drop down, it sucks the air in because there's a vacuum. Nature hates a vacuum. When it drops down, the lungs say, come on in. And the universe and the oxygen and the air says, we're on the way. And everything fills with air. The lungs are hugely full of air. And when we've got it in, the next thing we have to do is get the old stale air out. And so we just bring that muscle back up and the lungs go, phoo, right? So what we have then is a very efficient way to get the air in by drawing it from below instead of begging it to come in, and then giving it the shoulder to push it out. And as soon as it's out, we need more in. And there is no pushing involved. So when you think that if I breathe from up here, I'm dragging it, I'm begging it. If I let it happen from down here, down below the camera where you can't see me, if I allow it from down there, if I pull it in, the work is done for us. It's easier. Now here's the big, fabulous finish. When we do that, when we do it that way, we're not panicking. We're doing something normal. When you watch an animal sleeping, you can see their chest doesn't rise. Their tummy, the top of their tummy, just under their rib cage, is in and out. That's the natural way of breathing. We just got it wrong. So rib cage breathing, the hard way is pulling from the top up here. The easy way is inviting it in from the bottom. How do we remember? How do we remember that? Well, my simple hack is that I put either my hand, or I have a bigger stuffed animal, but I'll just use him for an example. I just hold him there. I just hold him right under my rib cage, and I let him remind me to breathe. I let friend bear remind me to breathe. How to breathe. If I want air in, tummy goes out. That creates the vacuum. If I want air out, tummy comes in, air is pushed out. So it's the opposite below of what we want here. Equal and opposite. Tummy out, air in. Tummy in, air out. So we can change our habits right after we change our minds. I just heard from one of my most cherished and valuable colleagues and former clients. What a lovely thing. We will talk. So what I want to leave you with today is this. When you find a treasure that you didn't know you had, it could be $10 in your pocket. It could be, just as you're getting into bed at night, the sudden realization that that ache in your shoulder you'd forgotten about because you were busy, because you were doing something, because you were thinking about someone, that you were creating something, that you were fixing something, that you were connected and communicating and involved in something. And you realize in that moment that whatever the discomfort was is yours to hang on to or let go of. Every single one of us has the opportunity to see something differently. Every single one of us has the opportunity to look at the story we were told and say, thank you. I think it's time for a rewrite. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to stand up and walk across that stage and claim my ribbon and say, this is mine today. I am walking here. And my tribe and my legacy, they're cheering from the side. We have that power. We have that power to say, I may be with you. I may not be of you. I may be taking a fresh path. It does not mean I no longer love you. It means it's my time to fly. Consider that. Consider that when the pressures are on us to stay in line, fall in line, do what the others do. If you found a treasure in your pocket, how would you use it? What would you do? What if that treasure is right now? Treasures always make you cry tears of joy. And I hope they do for you too. I'm going to be back on Thursday, as usual. I have something really, really, really interesting to talk to you about. It's kind of fun. It also has a hack inside it. And I hope that you will join me. And I hope if this resonated today, if this meant something today, let me know. Send me a comment. Let's get on this and let's think about more ways that we can reset, we can rejig, we can recheck the compass and say, why are we doing that? Let's go here. Because the options are always there. We just have to want them enough. And if it's concerning and if you're not sure how to do the thing you know you probably should, reach out. It's why I'm here. You can ask for my advice or you can listen to Mom. You have choices. So until next time, this is the drill. Be good to you. You deserve it. Be good to you in the present, immediate, and think about the big picture and be good to that part of you as well. And remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.